Just to get this out real quick, don't bother with Quake Champions, it sucks. Developers have no idea what they're doing with the netcode. That's all I'm gonna say. Hey guys, Necrosis! I have today a video that I'm gonna record. It's the perfect opportunity, in my case, to make it. This is the Quake Championship beta. One of my loyal viewers on Twitch, Dr. RPG Damon, gave me and hooked me up with the key, and I did a redeeming the other day, but due to ISP problems and the fact near Automata, whatever the heck it was also donated to me. We were playing that. Thank you, GG, thanks. But today, I was going to at least get this installed, up and running, and so on and so on. And here's the cool part. One, Bethesda apparently has their own launcher, similar to like Steam or Epic's launcher. And two, I can show some interesting things just as a result. What the hell am I talking about? Well, before I do anything more, let me show you here. I have not made a video on this yet. I don't know if I will or I will not. Probably will, because, you know, it was such an accomplishment for me. This is my router, my HFSC traffic shaper, with a very tailorized me and my uses, which is as a gamer. So I have a gaming queue on the upstream and the downstream. Now I also, just if anyone's curious, we're recording at least the first 3 routes I got on 2 of my servers at the same time. It's just like right now 3 really huge videos. The first one being the biggest. Look at this. I mean, it's been encoding for 15 hours. Still over 8 hours left. Encoding server's doing great. Here, I'm doing my network teaming test on 10100, 3 10100 megabit network interface ports. And I'm just uploading 2 big-ass 10 gig files to File.io, and that's why I'm relevant here only in the sense of we have upstream traffic. I'm capped at about 20 megabits upstream, 150 down. So we already have stuff going to my web queue. Anything else goes default, or rather anything that's not marked goes into default queue where it's assigned, where it needs to be assigned on the priority change, so to speak, although it's not a priority system. Web traffic will go here automatically, and that's where I found the clever solution to something. But all that's going to matter in the moment is there is a peer-to-peer queue that's going to give anybody else bandwidth it wants, that wants it. That's how it's designed in my case. And I have a game and a streaming queue specifically that are guaranteed latency because they're real-time allotted and they won't drop packets on the router as long as I don't meet those limitations. Like I don't exceed the allotment, and I over allotted for exactly that reason. So all that matters is get my game in here. But what about the launcher? That's what the real first part of this video is. So let's go ahead and first download this launcher. I have not even installed it yet. Actually, I think I may have downloaded it, but so I came up with a solution called DSCP. I didn't come up with that, I'm sorry. I used DSCP. Basically, what is a game launcher type portal, whatever the hell you want to think of it as? Well, it's what's probably going to be downloading the game. And it will be doing it over port 80. So it'll be sharing all the same queues as the rest of my traffic. But I don't want Steam necessarily using that same queue. I'd rather it just go into the default queue or just drop it into P2P. Now, in my case, it's not going to make a big deal one way or the other, but if it's not broken, then we need to fix it. So gpedit.msc, yep. This is the first part of it, and I don't know why I clicked on it. Yep, there we go. Windows settings, policy-based QoS. I had to do something to get this to work in Windows 7 at least. If you're going to set this up in some way, you got to Google it up. It was like a registry edit, something about NLA on or off, or I don't remember. It's been a while since I set it up. But long story short, this allows me to tag packets with a DSCP value. And I got a few things in here. You can see I have 3 games. I have Epic Game Launcher, Steam Launcher, and a BitTorrent client called Tixati. And they have 46, 12, and 10 respectively. These are just numbers I picked in my case. I'm not using the protocol for its intended use. But with just those 3 numbers, I have what I need. What do I mean? Well, I can actually say, hey, this program, I can tell it on the Windows computer that I'm on, the client. This program is peer-to-peer. Send it to the queue. So I don't have to go and try and get the right ports. If I was playing a new game, or say Doom, I don't know the IPs or the ports necessarily. I can find them out. It takes time. It takes a lot of work in some cases, and it can be really rough and frustrating in a lot of others. So what this did instead is I can tag the exe. All the traffic is getting tagged with this 46. And my router knows what that means because I have rules I created. A floating rule set. And again, this is not a tutorial. This is just a show and tell, so to speak. I have 1, 2, and 3 rules right here. AF12, which is DSCP12, is going to force the packets as a default queue. AF11, for standards purposes and just for referencing, I kept like all the generic full terms, but we'll just say DSCP12, DSCP10, there's my P2P, and DSCP46, that's the games. Say I picked the game one just for a moment. It's like a normal traffic shaping rule, but we're not going by our normal ports. Instead, somewhere down here under the advanced, I use something along, the diffserv code point, you can see. And I had to look up what was what and so on and all that fun stuff. And it goes into the acknowledgement, it goes into the gaming queue. I don't use an acknowledgement queue anymore. It just didn't work well for me in all my testing. But yeah, it was this specifically, and you have to kind of figure out what's what, where, and so on. That's why. So whatever. So long story short, this tells me where I can, or rather this tells the router by the packets being sent, hey, this is a game. This is web traffic, but it's headed to the default. And as a result, I have a lot of easy to use control without having to go into the router and do a lot of stuff. So let's go ahead and install this. Now, the only thing is I need to know what the program is. So before I even launch it, let's see what it is. It looks like it goes to the net updater.exe, so let's go ahead and add that first. So we would right-click, create a new policy. I just like to use the name, and I can reference my own previous work. So for the launcher, I'm just going to set it as 12. That'll set it to the normal queue instead of the web queue because of the port 80 traffic. So it just won't be competing with my web traffic. It'll be in a different queue doing its own thing. And this is only going to apply, in this case, to applications with this executable name. And I'm willing to bet there's going to be a second program, so we will take care of that next. Any source, any IP. And this will be for both TCP and UDP. So basically everything it can in relation to this. And hopefully it works, otherwise this whole video is going to be really not so great. So let's go back to my queue just so I can see queues. You can see very little traffic is going on in the default. There isn't much to go there because most of your traffic is probably web and so on. There's very little that can go in there. Okay, so it's performing a first time setup. Downloading, and we should really be looking here at this default queue because it's a download. But I can see the upstream is kicking up there too. So it is getting thrown here into the default queue, whatever this is sending back or forth. Not sure why the upstream is so huge and the downstream is not. Packet loss detected. Wow, that was some perfect timing on packet loss there. Okay, we are logged in. Next question. Actually, it'll be easier if I use something like Process Explorer just so I can more easily shoot. It looks like that is the full program. Their launcher is this, which is what compared to the other. That's the net updater. So I'm going to just copy that. I'm going to make a second rule that's going to mimic the first one. I'll keep the updater in case it's the system that's designed for the updating of this thing. The idea being anything that happens in the background kind of slips more under the radar as far as shaping so that it doesn't get all... In other words, it won't affect anything. I'll never even know it's happening. Set that to 12. Only applications with this name. TCP UDP. Alright. So these are now both tagged. I don't know if you have to restart the program or not. That's why I closed it. So the launcher portion of my life is done. Next question is, let's figure out how to get the game. So there's Quake. I'm gonna hit install. I've never used Bethesda's launcher before. As you can see from here, I've only ever had Steam. and the Epic Games Launcher. Alright, so it looks like it'll let me install it wherever it needs to. Disk space required 51 bytes. But we only have 1.27 terabytes. Create a desktop shortcut. Go ahead and create a menu shortcut. Just Yeah, go calculate all 51 of those bytes or bits. Here's another thing. Since I use the Reba Tuner thing, every now and then it did the same thing with the Epic Launcher. It hooks into it because of whatever rendering engine this uses. I don't know where that went. That should get rid of that, at least the next time. So is it downloading anything? I don't know. It's just calculating for now, so it's probably allocating a bunch. But ultimately all that's left is once I installed the game, I'll run it once and do the same thing here once I know the exact application that will be running in memory, because sometimes it's different from the one you open. Just depends on the game. I can add a new rule and it will just be tagged with a 46. And then if I have any connections, it'll go straight into my gaming queue, which has guaranteed low latency or no latency. This weekend's test event is now over. I guess there's going to be a non-disclosure agreement, huh? Means I can't stream the beta. Okay, it's a couple of days later right now, and I noticed that the Quake Champions, while still offline today until tomorrow, does start the actual download process of the 9.2. So I went ahead and just hit the record again so I can show you the DSCP we had set on this in gpedit.msc heal, the poly-C based QoS on, not the game in this case, just the where is it? Bethesda launcher of my 12 as I had created. I got this downloading right now, and if we go look into my pfSense, you can see there's traffic going on the up and down here, the default queue. There's almost nothing going on the web whatsoever. So that was the purpose of that, so that if I'm browsing the internet, even though this is downloading over some form of port 80, it's still going into the default queue. So it's a few days later in this case. It is the 15th here. NDA got lifted on the 12th. I played the game for a while, and besides it being garbage, the last part of my video was supposed to show that the final DSCP thing, right? So here's my GP edit. We did this earlier for the client, or rather the launcher, not the game client, but the launcher. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So where are you? There you are. So the launcher itself, I had assigned a DSCP value of 12. I basically repeated the process again once the game was installed and running. which was exactly the same. I just changed the value I use. These values are specific for what my traffic shaper does. So if for some reason you're trying to copy me, these numbers aren't going to do a whole lot of anything. Probably the easiest way to tell whether or not it works is to fire up your queue status and take a look. Here you have queue games. You can see there's no traffic. I mean, there's 33 bits for some reason. 30 is going down, probably because I was gaming a little earlier. But otherwise, there's 0 packets per second, 0 bits per second. Game is probably going to hit 0 in a moment here. And then all you do is just launch the game. You don't even have to play it. All you have to do is launch it so that it connects into the server one way or another. If the game tries to connect, then it will be already sending those packets through or rather it'll be sending the packets with the extra DSCP tag on it, which goes then through my gaming queue. So it'll go where it needs to go in the shaper, whether it's like a login server or a master server or a lobby server or the actual game server or some peer-to-peer networking setup. As long as it's in this client, because we made that rule, it will automatically go into the gaming queue. So you can see it's like connecting to server, whatever. But it's basically sending and receiving some kind of packets, even if it's just one. And boom, you can see gaming queue has traffic. There's some packets.
I'm gonna flip you like a table!